Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to the very first Conscious Energy Officer Show. I'm your host, Graham Parr.
And I'm Graham Betchard, co-host, and we got a third co-host, John Costanzo.
I'm
Want to
John.
welcome everybody to the show. Great job. And I want to thank Max Conscious. Max Conscious is our parent company. It's our sponsor. It's who brings this all forward, and it's why we built this for you. We built the Conscious Energy Officer Show to let everyone know about Max Conscious, which is our company that takes you through the training, the 16-week program. So thank you, Max Conscious, and it's exciting to be here for our first Conscious Energy Officer Show. And here's how it's going to work. What we're going to do is John, who is an incredible veteran of the police force and also the most advanced person we have training with Max Conscious. I mean, John's been doing, he'll tell you in a sec, but John's been doing mental training for over a decade. We got involved together over a year ago, and he's been kicking butt on all this. So what we want to do in this show is John's going to bring up something real, right? This show is for officers. This is for you. Grant and I are performance coaches. We've worked with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, everybody, officers, the Navy. We've worked with them all. What we're really good at is pressure. And John's going to bring a pressure point every week. He's going to bring something up that police officers go through. He's going to bring it up. And then we're going to use this show, which will be 30 minutes. We're not going to be longer than that. We're going to be short and sweet, and we're going to keep it really real with you. We're going to walk through how to deal with that pressure point. John's going to share some stories with us, and just really grateful, and our intention is to build the connection in the community between the police force and the community, and build that connection, build that bridge, and really create peace officers and create peaceful communities. And I'm honored to do this work that we've been called. And John, we are so grateful that you're here, that you've been doing this. I mean, you really are living this life, man, out there. So I want to welcome you to the show, to what we're doing, and love for you to introduce yourself and kind of get us rolling with our first pressure point that you're seeing out there, living this life as an incredible officer.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm like they introduced me. I'm John Costanzo. I'm a veteran police officer, 14 years in Washington, D.C. And, first, I just want to say I'm grateful that, you shared the skills because like you said, I've been working on mental skills for a very long time, and it just really pushed me over the edge to a greater place, and I'm grateful for that. So I just want to say thank you, starting off with that. But yeah, I mean, being an officer, it's there's a lot coming at you, a lot of pressure, and it's life and death pressure, which is the most extreme. So the first topic that I wanted to talk about was something that, I believe is the foundation of inner control. As an officer, they train you and teach you to, go control this person, go take control. But let's be real and let's talk about what control really means,
Wow, that one's big, because just, from someone from the outside, who's, the word control is so powerful. And it seems like with my novice experience of working with law enforcement, or just what you see, it's like, oh yeah, there is this pressure to control the outside. Like you've got to control the scene, or, obey my commands, or, make sure everyone's listening. So it does seem like that there's a lot of pressure in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And, it can be scary sometimes, that feeling of fear creeps in, when it's not going the way you hoped it to go. Because a lot of people, let's be honest, in real life, we focus on results. But as we know, that's not it. That's not where it is, right?
Right. And Grant, when you think about it, right, our first principle, of the Max Conscious program is the word win. But win stands for what's important now. So what's actually in your control. And it's crazy, right, John? So you bring this up, and you've been doing this so well, this inner control. Because if we actually think about a list of, okay, what's in our control, what's out of our control, one of the first things we go through is like, wait a second, other people are out of my control. I mean, I just think about it. I have, I'm married with kids. I've coached. I've done all this. I'm like, man, you can say things. It does not mean that someone's just gonna,
Yeah.
do what you say. So it's like a kind of that first one to kind of think about is, wait a second, if I can't control things outside of me, how do I get this control like on a scene? That seems to be like a big deal, right?
It's what I've experienced, it's a very vulnerable place to be. And that's a super scary word for people, especially cops, because you're supposed to be the guy coming in or lady coming in to bring it down, and a lot of times you feel those feelings and you want to go, whoa, you want to jump up. Right. But then that's where we talk about where palms down comes in is so key, that inner control of just, okay, like I feel that's real. That's a vulnerable place to be, but I'm going to lean into that discomfort and I'm going to, palms down with my energy, come in, control myself. And then what I find is people mirror my energy, and I'll even physically do this. Like, okay, I'd love to hear your story, but let's bring it down a little bit. And they'll go, okay. And then they'll realize, oh yeah, I am excited. I am in my feelings. I do want to share my story, and he wants to listen. So I probably should bring it down a little bit. And they do. And I haven't had a moment where that hasn't connected with people.
John, what I love about that, and I'll go a little bit deep on this from a music standpoint, but when you think about showing up on scene, yes, you have to be in control and you have to like get things, gathered, but you're the conductor, right? You're the conductor of the situation. So when you're doing stuff like this with your hands, right, you're dictating a little bit subconsciously the tempo, the rhythm of the situation. Because that's what conductors do, man. They take a group of people and a bunch of energy and they move it and they keep it going with their hands, right?
Yeah.
So that's why this whole calms down, it's so huge. It's not about calming down. Like when you go to a scene and you tell somebody to calm down, like
that never works. That never works. They go, oh, you want me to calm down? They go 100. If they weren't at 100, they go to 1,000. And you're like, wow, this is totally out of control.
Right. Man, you guys are nailing it. It's like everyone calm down, relax. Like that's not going to work, right? I'm projecting overwhelming panic in this as I'm conducting this scene. I'm going to heighten it. I'm going to heighten the scene, trying to control it outside of me.
Absolutely. Right. Because I mean, let's be real. Even kids these days don't want to be controlled. Right. And I do this with my daughter. Yeah. I don't tell her what to do, but I do it with my energy. And she almost like a Jedi mind trick, but I'm not here to trick her. This is just real. I'm here in this moment with you. I understand you're upset, but let's choose our response. Palms down.
So palms down, everyone listening. There's this universal reaction when energy heightens or something is not going your way, or you perceive a situation as dangerous or something. We can react like this. Energy just happens really quickly. Like, listen to me, or they're not doing this, right? And then we're completely out of control at this point. So palms down, instead of reacting kind of to that first reaction, we choose our response. So you go, I feel like doing this, but I recognize I have to start to slow it down a little bit, right? Because under pressure, never do we want to be moving fast like this. We can be efficient. We can be very efficient, but never do we want to be operating like this. Grant and I have been doing this work for a long time. We've never seen anyone operate well like this ever, right? This is the start of going, okay, for me to actually impact this scene and impact what's going on, I have to impact myself first, and I have to choose my response. So, John, this is real, right? Different than like nothing wrong with us working with Olympians or pro athletes. That shit is great. But I remember when I talked when I was working with the U.S. Navy, that was the first time when I was like, okay, this is real shit, right? Because that's do or die, right? That's not that's not a win or lose. Like we'll go home. Like a bad day in that business is you're not coming home, right? That's the same thing with police officers. So when do you feel it get heightened the most? Like, what's it like? Is it you get a call? Like, walk us through what that's like, and then how do you actually start to like process through, like when something's heightened, how do you process that through? Take us through that a little bit, how you do that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's many layers to it, but I guess we'll start from like receiving they call it like a hot call or like a priority call. So there's like this alert tone that goes over the radio to catch your attention. And then let's say man with a gun at this location. So naturally, people run from that. We are running towards it. So in a sense, we're already leaning into it, right? We have no choice. We are the last resort, right? So that is an uncomfortable place to be. And those feelings come. And as the years go on, you handle them a little bit better, but really where palms down comes in, especially, is when you start to feel those feelings. You have to invite them in. You cannot mute them or run from them, because that's when fear kicks in. And that's a very dangerous place to be. When you're in fear and you're in that tunnel vision, things are closing in, you're not seeing everything. I mean, really focusing on the task at hand, that moment, that intersection, that, there's pedestrians around, jaywalking on red lights, taxi drivers, listening to music, just flying through the intersection when you're going lights and sirens. And your thought is, how in the world did they not just hear me or see me? Right?
Yeah.
So that's when those feelings start to kick in, and you have to, right? Feelings aren't facts, but that's a real feeling. We cannot mute that. So that's when we invite palms down in. It's like, okay, cool. I feel this feeling, but I'm going to bring it with grace and compassion. Okay? And I'm going to palms down this moment, and I'm going to choose my response. Am I in danger in this very moment, this very second? No, I'm not. Right? I'm going to danger, but we're not there yet. Right? I don't know the facts of the case. So why am I going to allow myself to get heightened prior to even getting there? Because naturally, like we talked about, we want to go to the results.
Yeah.
And we can't. We cannot go to the results. We need to stay in that moment.
Yeah.
We need to feel those feelings, lean into it, bring in palms down, invite palms down in. Hey, cool. Feelings, you're in. Palms down, you're in. We're together, right? We're building that bond. We're coming together, and we're choosing our response. So it's almost like you're unifying the feelings with the palms down, the control, your inner control.
Yeah.
And then you're choosing your response. And that, to me, that's the ultimate freedom, because when I show up and I'm in control and I have that inner control and I'm palms down, telling you 100% of the time, it just, the results happen. And sometimes more so, the results are way greater than I could have even imagined. Yeah, way greater. And I tell you what, being the pioneer of this in law enforcement, it's a tough place to be, because you have officers coming in that want to take control. And it's like, bro, no.
Yeah.
Just follow me. We got this. Good, right? We're good. And then they come in. And the crazy thing is, they come in and you see it. You see the force, right? Power versus force. I'm coming from a place of power.
Yeah.
They're coming from a place of force, the negative energy. And you see the interaction when that force comes with that other person, that individual we're dealing with in a chaotic moment, in a moment of chaos for them. It just blows up. It just goes from, this whole thing was orchestrated really well, like you said, to just chaos, force versus force, fear versus fear. I mean, you could just feel you're just,
Yeah. Well, Graham said this multiple times to me in our teachings with each other, is when dark meets dark, you end up in a dark spot, both parties. So and this was a real situation with me, and I won't go into the stories and the details, but someone was being a jerk to me, and I met his energy with being a jerk back. And when I could have actually got into my breath, got my mind, got where my feet were, right, got potent in the present, and choose a different response, palms out. If I would have done that, then, because I didn't feel good when I got done after exchanging some words, I didn't feel good, and who knows if that guy felt good or not, but it just was a good energy when dark meets dark, you end up in a dark spot. I don't care if you kick the shit out of somebody or whatever. Like, it just, man, when you use your light, right, and you use these skills, these 4 principles that we've been talking about, man, that's how you can like shed the darkness, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and it's a vulnerable place to be, because we grew up, at least most of us grew up focusing on the results and running anxiously to outcomes, and you must do this, you must do that. And that's exactly opposite of what we teach.
And that, just to come back to, so we nailed our first principle. What's important now? It's what's in your control. And we got, okay, inner control. I can't control everyone else. And then we talked about palms down, 2 little skills right in between that John's been really utilizing effortlessly. The second one is what we call play present, right? Or being potent in the present. So John, you get the call, right? Boom. The alarm goes off on the call, there's sound. Now you're like, okay, there's this thing happening. And immediately your mind wants to go to results. It happens to every human being. It wants to know what's going to happen. Is this going to work? Boom, boom, boom. And what you did is you're like, no, I'm going to be present. And then, so that's the second thing. You're like, no, I'm here. Am I in danger right now? Not close. Nope. Right? Not close. Am I going to go to it? Sure. But before that, I have got to be present. And then you started working on your inner control. You were like, okay, I'm going to welcome the feelings in. So a really big one. I just want everyone to notice what John said. He wasn't squashing feelings like, fuck, push that fucking fear away. Let's be fucking fearless. No, that would be insane. Because that's insane. Because you're like, the reality, no, I do feel this. So this is where the Navy really clicked. They were like, no, we do feel fear. So saying fearless doesn't make sense. But let's say we know how to operate with that fear. We know how to come in, be palms down. We know how to breathe. We know how to take that down. So I'm present and I'm executing at a high level with the task at hand, right? Being present. And then let's be real. That shit's hard, man. It's hard to be present at times, right? Because, man, our mind wants to get to a result. So the third skill is what we call next play speed, or that's your bounce back ability, right? So you get the call, sound goes off, we're going. Boom, someone's got a gun. Am I going to live? And you got to be like, whoa, come back and drive the car, right? Because here's a taxi cab driver. It's like you got to come back to in the moment, right? So next play speed is that willingness to come back to the present and really get to the task at hand. And then how do we come back to the present? Let's be palms down. And these surfboards behind me are there for a real reason. Yes, I'm in California. Yes, they're cool and all that. But these are to remind you that when this hits, right, we're not pushing it all away, but we're going to learn to ride these waves. And these surfboards help us remember that as a conscious energy officer, palms down means, just like John said, hey, I feel vulnerable. I feel uncomfortable, but I'm still going to be with it. And then, John, your inner self-talk was really profound. And another thing that's in your control is, how are you talking to yourself? How are you coaching yourself through these moments?
You have to. Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, yourself will talk to you, and that's a dangerous place to be. Yeah. The feelings, you'll start holding on to those feelings. You'll start holding on to things, outcomes, results. No, you got to let it go.
You know, I will say this, John, because I can only imagine it's so important to engage into your inner dialogue and know how to talk to your thoughts, not listen to them. Once you start listening to them, then you're in the effect of them, and then like fear comes in, all sorts of bullshit comes in, right? So it's learning.
You're
man, you got to learn. And I was just wondering too, because Graham and I, when we're on our other podcast, I talk about this a lot. Is I understand your job, it's life or death. It can be, and you're trained for these moments. So when you get that red, I don't know your language, but your red alert call, and you're like, holy shit, you're going into a crazy situation. I know when I deal with adversity and I teach my clients how to deal with adversity, when they see it, they notice it, they can sense it's coming, get into the language of I get to, not like I have to, or I better. It's just like, man, I get to go to this. I get to palms down. I get to control this thing. I get to help people. I get to be in service. I take something from a 5 to a 2. So is that fair to say in your line of work to like have that kind of dialogue with yourself, to like, I get to take care of this crazy ass thing I'm going to get into that could threaten my life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I believe, at least for me, the words are so powerful. Words are extremely powerful. What you fuel your heart with is what you project, right? And if you are loving yourself, it's progress over perfection. None of this is perfect by any means. And I don't want anybody to understand that we're seeking perfection here. But this is a place of love, right? We're compassion and caring for the community,
Now,
for the
now
other.
I got to keep it real. Even I'm like, man, some of this shit must sound so soft. Like, like you're like, no, I'm a cop. But even to I work with athletes, I'm like, oh, compassion is an incredible competitive trait. They'll be like, man, that shit is soft. So talk to us about being real, right?
Hey, no, I love it. You know what? I love even harder when people say that that's soft. I'm like, hey, cool, no problem. Tell me about it. I invite that in because what I want them to realize is that it is not soft. It is the strongest, most powerful human experience you could have. But a lot of times people are insecure and they're worried about social comparison and judgment. And then I'm not. I'm really not. I'm in a very, very good place.
Actual result. Like you're doing all this inner stuff, you're showing up on scene. What is this even doing on scene? Like you know what I mean? Talk to us about some of your maybe a experience or two experiences you've had working the inner control and showing up on scene.
Oh, sure, man. I got a really good one. So let's see. I had I'll use a simple one. There was this lady on a bus. The bus was out of service. So we got a call for this lady sleeping on a bus, right? You're not doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
But the bus is out of service. It's going back to the yard. You can't go back to the yard with the bus, right? Because that's a secure facility. So she was homeless and just sleeping on the bus. I was the second officer on scene. The first officer gets there and you got to get up. You got to get up. That wasn't working, right? So I'm observing. I don't like to just come in and take over. We as officers respect the first officer on scene because at that time they have the most information because they were there the longest. So we let them try to navigate the scene. Let's say that. Okay. So then I get on the bus and I give it a shot and I try to connect with her. I do. She's still not really moving. And then I just explain the facts. Hey, this bus is out of service. You're free to get on another bus. It's just this bus isn't going anywhere. I mean, I'm like, does that make sense? And I noticed I use that a lot because when it doesn't make sense, I want them to understand why I'm here. I'm not here to hurt them. I'm here to help them. And so I use that a lot. I use help. How can I help you? Coming from a place of caring.
Yeah.
And does that make sense? Because just because I grew up a certain way and was raised a certain way doesn't mean that the person that I'm encountering has experienced it like that at all. And they have a whole different background. So I need to connect with that. And the way I do it is by saying, does that make sense?
That right there, every time I am talking, if I say, does that make sense? Everyone connect with that. It just opens up so much space of a natural connection occur because you're being humble. Yes, you're in charge and you're given some sort of direction, but you're like, hey, is everyone connecting with that? And in that space, now you're here almost in service. Like, hey, I'm just here to help. Is this all this making sense? So that is man, that's universal. Like and John, when you talk about power versus force would be like, get your fucking ass up off this fucking bus and get the fuck off now, right? And
you know what? And her response was, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And it was dark versus dark, right? I'm like, oh geez. I'm like, I need to interject here. I need to palms down this situation because it is not going well.
Yeah.
It was not going well. So I did. And I connected with it. She's like, yes, that makes sense. Clearly she was exhausted. I was putting myself in her shoes and just saying, she's homeless. She doesn't have a home. This might be her home, right? Every bus that she gets on might be her moment to take a nap because there's cameras. It's more of a safer place than just the streets or even homeless shelters. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So I did. I connected with her and she understood. So she was starting to get up and she had a lot of stuff. And I said, hey, can I help you? Like she was struggling to get up. I reached my hand out and I helped lift her up. So she got up. Right. And I let her go at her pace. And guess what? She got off the bus. No force, no, nothing.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing was the other officer leaves. The bus operator, 2 bus operators and a bus supervisor asked me, how did you do that? We were trying to get her up the whole time. And I said, great question. And then it was a moment for me to share the skills. I just controlled myself. And I had all of their attention. It was like a little circle. And they're like, teach us. And I was like, no problem. Here you go. This is what and they were blown away because it was smooth. It was easy. I did it with ease, you know?
You know, John, like this, you know, the mental game, mental skills training, mental performance training, it's really the energy game. It's really what it is.
Yeah.
And what people don't see is that there's so much power in connecting energy. We can't see the energy. If you really study energy, you could see it if you spend some time with it, but it's coming from here, not from here. And that's where people are like, man, I've been spending so much time trying to get her off the bus because you haven't been meeting her where she's at. You haven't connected the frequency. You've got this knack of like dropping right in and plugging right in because you're good. Your energy is dialed in. Yep. And people feel that shit. Like they feel it. Even homeless, they want to be felt. They feel like they haven't been felt, right? Yep. Generally speaking. So so that's a skill, man. That's a gift.
I mean, that's a conscious energy officer, right? It's a playoff CEO, right? Yeah. It's a leader. You're like, if you're going to lead a situation, what do you have to lead? Inner control. Like that's where all leadership starts. And no, we're not saying this is some Jedi shit, but fuck, sometimes it looks like it. You'll be like, whoa, like
it feels like it, real. Like, I'm like, how did that just happen? But I wasn't focused on the results. I was just like, hey, I'm in no rush here, right? I am in no rush to get her off the bus. I don't care what anybody says, right? That's what I can control. I am not going to rush this scene. I am going to connect with her. As long as everybody's safe, I'm going to connect with her and I'm going to find out where she's really at. I mean, there's so many stories, but that was just one of the smoother, smaller stories about, you know, that inner control and connecting with somebody, not focusing on the results and really just seeing how it played out, because that other officer, no fault to his own. He doesn't know, right? It's about education. And this is why we're doing this. We need to educate people.
That's right. I mean, that's why we're here.
So I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not here to say it's cops' fault or it's community fault or anything. I'm just here to say, this is what I find that works. And it all starts within.
Yeah. Well said, man. And that's, we are here to help. I mean, that's why we built Max Conscious. You know, I've been doing this work for over 20 years. We've been doing it. Grant and I put it together. John came aboard. So we wanted to make a simple process for officers, a simple training process, right? And it starts with a language. Look how John knows this language. Like the start is, you know, a language in moments. That's why we call it a mental skill. You have a skill in a moment. You're like, oh, pressure hits. I got a skill set. You still have to apply the skill set. You have to train the skill set. It's like muscles are working out. You don't just like, if you're not training it, you're not going to be sharp in those moments. And that's why we've built this is to make this practical and real, because this isn't anyone's fault. If you don't have it, this is not your fault. Right? But that's why we've built this, so we can start to give access to this stuff and really do it. So we built Max Conscious for you. Our goal is to train conscious energy officers. I'm blown away, John. I'm blown away at your work. I'm blown away at your leadership, your willingness to be vulnerable and do this. Grant, I'm blown away with your coaching and what you do. Like, I'm humbled that we're called to do this and serve in this space. But our goal is to reach every officer. I think it should be against the law for officers to not have this training. And I mean that with love. Like, I needed this when I was a kid, and I felt like it was criminal that I didn't get this when I was a kid. I was like, no way. Right. That's why I got into mental training. Just so everyone knows, I've been in it for over 25 years, because in 1997, when I went through a crisis in my life, I realized this shit wasn't around. And like, we need a pathway to go through stuff. We need a training. So my life's work has been to take everything I was so fortunate enough to learn when I was 19 years old, being present, meditation, like all this stuff. And I've just wanted to give it to the world. And so that's why we're here. This is life-saving stuff. And I'm beyond grateful to do this show. We're doing it. We're going to do it every Monday. We're going to put it out to the world. You're going to be hearing from John. You're going to be hearing from us. And we welcome you to come check us out, to come be a part of our classes. Come join us. We can't wait to work with you. So super grateful.
Super grateful.
Yeah.
Have a great week.
Woo! Good job, everybody.
See ya.